Welcome to this week's edition of Hit Subscribe Facebook Live. We're going to talk about some misconceptions in content marketing. How about I ask you questions and you answer?
All right. Why don't we just briefly define what content marketing is? What do you think?
Okay.
I think we've done this in a video a long time ago, but it's worth reiterating here because uh, in order to understand why something's a misconception, you have to probably understand the thing in the first place. So briefly speaking, content marketing is a subset of the general discipline of marketing, but with content marketing, the idea is you're producing content, which could come in various media, print, blog posts, white papers, whatever, but that the media itself, like the content you're producing, has standalone value to the people reading it that isn't a quid pro quo. So if you're content marketing, you're mostly educating, you're putting out content that is just on its own useful to people, with the idea being that people will come to trust you and your brand, and your company or whatever. And eventually that trust will bear fruit in the form of them making a purchase, if that purchase makes sense. So I guess for the purposes of the rest of this video, the important things to note here is that the standalone value piece and the content piece and the educational piece. So content that would stand on its own and is informative.
I like that. That was a good description. So what are the biggest misconceptions about what content marketing is?
Yeah, I'll just go through my mental Rolodex of prospect calls where maybe there's a difference of opinion, or we'll even decline to work with people because that it turns out they come to us saying, hey, can you help us with our blog? And what they're trying to do isn't content marketing, and what our company Hit Subscribe does is content marketing. We in sort of a compact, if you will, with the authors that we work with, we want to be a generally good participant in the software development community. And so we bring in authors not associated with the companies that we're writing for to write posts. And they wouldn't want to do that if it was slimy. So
right.
What we're generally doing as a business is writing posts that are how to learn a programming language, or, what are some tips for using this technology? And that is the exact sort of thing that people can consume on their own, read start to finish, and go away and never give the company a dime. And that's okay with everybody involved. And if you're looking to be a client of ours and that's not what you're looking for, then we're probably not what you're looking for. And so that's a long tail introduction to this idea of misconceptions. So let me start with probably the most common one, and this is the idea that if I'm blogging, I am by definition content marketing.
Right. Yeah.
So imagine you start a blog, and we talk about this a lot. Maybe you start a hobby or product review blog or whatever you want to blog about. But when a lot of individuals start a blog, it's kind of with this vague idea of hey, I'm going to talk about makeup or something. But what they wind up doing is writing so I went to the library today. And this kind of journaling is, it is blogging if you're putting it on your blog, but it's not anything approaching content marketing. In the software space where we play, you'll get when companies do this, they're hey, we should have a blog, so let's put stuff on it. What do we put on it? I don't know. Let's announce that we hired Jane Smith. Let's announce that we've released version 2.1 of our software, which is called a changelog post.
Yeah.
These things are not content marketing. If I'm being brutally honest, nobody cares outside of the company. Honestly, Jane Smith's parents probably don't even care about this blog. It's just no one cares. Maybe Jane, maybe her parents, I don't know. But there's no educational value to that. And people really aren't following brands for their blog posts. Imagine that you're some product you use Dial Soap or Irish Spring. Do you follow their blog and want to know that they hired people?
Or even your favorite brand. Think of somebody you're a huge fan of. If you just are a huge fan of, who wrote, it doesn't have to be Crazy at Work. What does he do?
DHH.
Yeah, what's the product?
Basecamp.
Basecamp, that's it. So maybe you really subscribe to Basecamp's philosophy and you're just super into them and you're all about them and you do follow their blog because you care. If they announce that, they're hiring or, saying goodbye to like one of their employees, like you as a huge fan of them, do you care? I mean, like, is that a blog post you read? You're bored.
Yeah, it winds up being filler on the blog, and we would discourage companies from doing that gratuitously because this is a little bit of like in the weeds technical SEO, but like if you have a poor ratio of kind of empty calorie content to valuable content, that kind of causes the search engines to think that you're noisy. There can be a venue for those types of announcements. I'm not saying if you run a company blog or your personal blog, you shouldn't talk about yourself. Just don't confuse that with content marketing.
Yeah, right.
It's not
right.
what it is. I'd say the second biggest misconception that we see among like prospects and clients is talking at length about your product and
Yeah.
why people should buy it.
I was waiting.
Also
for that
not content marketing.
Yeah.
That's a thing, and it's called sales. And that's something you should do,
one.
but don't confuse that with content marketing. And
Right.
if you're doing that on your blog, I would argue you're not making a great use of your blog. Companies have pages where they extol the virtues of their product. Those are called like sales or features or landing pages, kind of depending on the text. Anyway, I won't go into that, but there's a venue for that. And it's that thing that like lists the prices on your site and all that, where you're trying to convince people to buy. If you also do that on your blog, you're not creating what's called a funnel. You're not educating people. You're not building trust. You're just kind of bashing them over the head with one sales pitch after another. So I'd say, those are probably the two most common like misconceptions about what content marketing is that I see. Either that it's, you talking at length about minutia about yourself, or it's that you're talking at length about why everybody should buy your thing because it's the greatest. And you'll notice a common thread here. It's you talking about you. And, maybe this is a more subtle, like general misconception about content marketing. If you're content marketing, you're really focused on the questions that the people who you eventually might want as a customer, you're focused on the questions that they're asking. It's about them and their experience and their learning, and they're getting value out of the content. It's not about you. You don't matter. I mean, you do, like it's your blog and you want them to buy your product. But if they're just becoming aware of you, you don't want to be talking a lot about you. You want to be helping them. If you help somebody a few times, then they start to take like natural interest on their own. Like, oh, I want, this is pretty helpful. Who are these people? Maybe I'll read more about them.
What would you say about a company where the strategy of their marketer is to look at the questions that people are answering and go, oh, my product could solve this, and to answer their question by talking exactly about how their product solves something?
That can be content marketing. Like it's a fine line to walk. If and I think we talked about this in a video maybe a month ago, like I forget which one it was, where we were talking about like Grammarly.
Oh yeah.
And if like so Grammarly is like a browser plugin that helps you with your grammar. It's sort of like Microsoft Word's grammar check, but like on the internet. And so if somebody's like, hey, how do I check my grammar on the internet? And that's what they're Googling, and you land on Grammarly's site, and Grammarly says, actually we offer this product, and here's how you would do it using our product. That is content marketing that also happens to be sales. But if you're going to take that and try to use it as an example for your content marketing, I don't know if I'd call that a misconception or a mistake, but like the chances that somebody is Googling the exact problem that someone would have when they want to give you money is not high. So people take this lesson away like, oh, well, I'll just figure out what people are Googling when they would want to give me money, and I'll write about that. Like, there are very few products where people are searching on the internet where like they would go from not having heard of you to giving you money. Like, that's just unlikely. So I would say borderline, like, don't even try for that, especially if you're new to content marketing. Assume that's not possible. And maybe if you get good at it after a while, you'll find some instances where, hey, yeah, we can, bring people all the way along. But
it might be interesting for people to kind of like pay attention to their own habits. Like if you didn't know that Grammarly exists, you didn't know that there was a browser plugin that would do that sort of thing, and you landed on that, and you read a post on how Grammarly could solve all your problems. You're like, oh, I didn't know something like that existed. Isn't your next step probably like the I think what's called the evaluation stage, where you go, see, I wonder what else is out there. Like, you don't go immediately to go like download it, right?
it depends on a lot of factors. Like, this is something that's actually become kind of interesting to me, and I never would have thought of. But there's like some human psychology at play. So I'd say maybe. And it depends on the price point and I guess the relative wealth of the person buying. So like if you're watching this, imagine that you were having a lot of grammar problems on the internet. You found this thing Grammarly, like, yeah, it'll do a grammar check. And they were like, sign up to buy it. And you were like, how much is this? And the answer was 4 cents. You're not going to shop around for that. I mean, who cares? Take your money.
Grammarly is not 4 cents.
But if it's $400 a month, then you're probably going to react by saying, wow, that's way too much money. And you'll start Googling like cheaper Grammarly alternative.
Right.
And if it's somewhere that maybe you kind of find reasonable, then you might comparison shop. But that
Right.
really depends on a lot of factors. Depends on the searcher, like how good a fit it is. Some markets are going to be more like price averse or more comparison shoppy than others.
Let's go to another question. How's your view of content marketing changed from the start of Hit Subscribe until now? So I guess it's a question of us.
I don't know. I think I had a pretty good handle on it before Hit Subscribe. Like, how about for you?
I understood what it was, but I was much more amenable to trying to bend Hit Subscribe to fit people that had a vision for their blog other than what we did. So like if a client said, sure, I'm all about the free value, but like I also have a lot of posts where I really want to go deep into my product, and I want the authors to be able to know our product in and out, and to be able to like speak to why people should want to buy them. And I think we were much more anxious then to like kind of learn and go deep and write more salesy copy that was not content marketing. And now we certainly don't start off relationships like that, and I think we, for the most part, say this is where we shine. Let's stick with it.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It's your blog, live your life. So
Yeah.
it's not like we're not all that opinionated on what ought to go on your blog. And I say this because like a lot of clients will have reasons for posting things on their blog that are very diverse and specific. Like maybe you have a channel partner that's like, hey, we'll bring you a lot of business if you write weird things about us. We can't know that, but we'll work with you as long as you're sticking within our charter. So it's really kind of a question of like, we've figured out, here's the kind of content our authors want to write. Here's the kind of content we want to do as a business. And if you want that, great, let's work together. And if not, we're not the partner for you. I think we've gotten more refined in sticking to pure content marketing and not getting talked into other vehicles. I'm trying to think if like, my opinions of content marketing have materially changed. Wow, that is the reddest bird I've ever seen. I'm sorry,
We're looking outside early.
that was a wildly inappropriate thing to do in this. I think what's maybe changed is like over the last couple of years, I've gained a much deeper understanding of some of the mechanics of content marketing. So like what content marketing is and isn't, I have the same opinions of that I did a couple of years ago, but we're probably better at understanding like the people who we're marketing to, understanding how to effectively find them, do things for them. So I'd say my understanding has changed in that I've gone a lot like deeper on it, and I know how to do it a lot better.
I like that.
And not from a writing perspective. Like I think generally we've put out, as far as technical blogs go, whether it's me writing or anyone that hit subscribe between the editorial staff and our writers, like we put out, good quality information, but we've gotten better at how to like pick the right topics, how to reach an audience, how to grow an audience faster.
I think too, we've written into our process more checks on things like tone. Like before, if I would have read a blog post that came off kind of like a little bit copyright or salesy, you could kind of feel like that the author was trying to do a job of selling the product in the blog post, and you could feel that from the tone. I used to let that go, and now we have checks in place that say that like this isn't the kind of tone we want to be striking with content marketing. This is not, we need to go in here and tone down, kind of the language. Less exuberance.
That, like, speaking of tone and maybe, like, people having this natural tendency to mimic, like, really salesy copy or whatever, it makes me think of, like, content marketing misconceptions from the other side. So I've talked about, like, clients wanting to, or people or businesses wanting to like bore the world with changelog updates or do like overly salesy things. But then from the other side, there are people who have only like a vague understanding of like marketing, and so they would think of content marketing maybe as something that's like kind of scummy, like it's, you know, oh, you've got this educational content and you're like baiting and switching. So I think there's a misconception out there that content marketing is a trick.
Yes,
And it's
definitely.
designed to trick you.
Definitely.
And I'd like to dispel that one, because content marketing and the idea of this marketing funnel, by definition, the marketing funnel assumes and counts on the fact that not everybody that lands on the site will buy. So that's not just an unfortunate byproduct. Content marketing done right is designed to sort of filter the universe between people who could benefit from your product and people who can't, and to sort of steer those people away. Like, look, you know, we write all these, what was the example I was using? Soap. Like, we write all these blog posts about soap, and if you're the kind of person that cleans yourself, yeah, we want you. And if you're Pigpen, then you should find a site. But I don't know, I'm getting a little off the rails with this, but like, this is kind of the idea, you know, maybe say like iPhone versus Android, and you're in one of those camps. And for somebody that makes like an iPhone accessory, you want to bring in people that are maybe interested in cell phones in general, but you're at some point going to filter out the people that are like, I am an Android person and I hate iPhone. Like, hey, you're not, you know, you're not the customer that we want.
Yeah.
So truly what the top of the funnel stuff, like what content marketing is designed to do, is like educate and define a relationship or not with the company. And it's really designed to suss out like, is the offering here right for this reader or not? And if not, you know, hey, it's kind of like our attitude with hit subscribe. If you want to run your blog differently, God bless. We want people that can benefit from what we do and want what we do. And if that's not your thing, you know, it's a lot of business out there in the world.
I really like that point. That's really cool. I also like what you're saying about, like, you know, the idea of content marketing being scummy, because sometimes I feel like people ask me what I do and I say I run a content marketing business, and I feel like, you know, I should slick back my hair and be like, I have a business opportunity for you. And like, there's just something kind of like, almost like, you know, used car salesy about like the sound of it, but it's so much the opposite of that. It's so much like, here's free value. We create like, you know, good feels between, you know, potential buyers and our clients. So I don't know. I don't think there's a lot scummy going on there.
Not a lot, just enough.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit of gel in the hair.
So I mean, that's probably like, we're at a good place to wrap. I think we're good on time to fit it into that kind of 15 to 20 minute window. And
any closing thoughts on the birds outside? Any wildly inappropriate?
No, you should have seen this bird. It was like brick red.
I didn't see it.
It was a cardinal, I think.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well,
So yeah, like join us next week when we will be birding. I don't know. We'll probably
excellent.
we'll try to come up with something more interesting than that.
I'm gonna be the star of that show. I think that's perfectly interesting. I like birds. All right. Well, with that,
We will catch you next time.